Okay, Cody was going to start us off with microwaving.
Oh, yeah. So while I didn't want to like... Okay, microwave stories.
This is gonna be good. I'm like leaning back.
I've always been known to microwave. I was okay. You know those microwave in a cup things, like the brownies that you can make in a mug.
Yeah.
I did that before that was a thing. Just so I made pancakes in a cup.
Like you invented your own recipe for it. I mean, or you created your own thing.
The recipe was I just put pancake batter and water in a mug and then microwaved it until it was thick enough to eat.
Don't those call for eggs?
Nice.
Yes, they do. Yes. I did not follow the recipe. And I do it with brownie batter too. I'd like put brownie batter, some water.
That's like the pioneers. They mix flour and water.
I was a pioneer and it was delicious.
Pioneer with a microwave.
For you.
Thank you.
On here, so
Put an effect in there. People slow clapping for me. But anyway, in high school, this is kind of unrelated. I brought hot chocolate to school, and it was like by the time I got in my class, it was really cold.
Sorry.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
The word was not coming to my mind. Cold.
I'm sorry. Continue.
Brittany's being sassy to me.
I
don't know what to do.
She's in a mood.
Well, you should have heard the episode.
And so I like put it in the microwave to microwave it, right? Well, I didn't realize, and I was in physics. Maybe it should have been chemistry, but I didn't realize that like pressure builds up in things when they're closed. Mm-hmm. And so it was one with a cap that you have to lift up. It like seals. So I microwave it for 2 minutes. I go sit at my desk. Oh,
this is bad. I can
it
see
was so much worse than you're imagining it. I popped this lip. It was like an explosion of scalding hot chocolate all over my body.
Oh no!
It like, I swear it like made my hair go back. And it was on the cabinets. Like when I stood up, you could see like a person outline of, because we're sitting in our desk and there was a cabinet behind me, and so there was like an outline of a person where it had missed me and gone on the cabinets.
Your teacher's like, just continues.
Yeah, and it hurt me, but what hurt me worse was my pride.
Oh, God.
The fact that I had, like, everyone knew that I didn't know that hot chocolate would explode over me.
I didn't catch. I'm sorry. Did you microwave in the classroom?
Mm-hmm.
And so
yeah, and
everyone watched you do it.
Yeah,
and was like,
they were like,
don't do it.
Yeah, it was one of those moments where people were like, "What just like what's going on with her?" So,
oh man,
it was
Poor
fine.
thing. You learned your lesson though. I mean, that's how you learn in cooking.
I exploded eggs, so I haven't learned all my lessons.
You're gonna put everything in the microwave to see if it explodes.
Will this explode? I don't want to do this in public, so I'm gonna do it right now.
So one time, that reminds me, in college, I was. Have you guys heard like you don't put metal in the microwave? That's
yes.
the thing, right? Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Just want to make sure that's like a universal thing.
Yes,
So
that is science.
I was like, okay, so you know how butter has like the foil thing? So I was like, I'm gonna see what really happens. Everybody says it's kind of like, don't touch this or that, bad things will happen. So I was like, what really will happen?
Oh my gosh.
So I was kind of like being a ham a bit to my roommate, and I was like, I said something about it. I don't remember what. I think I was like, I'm going to put this in here, but I like didn't say what it was. And I was like, watch, and she's just like doing her thing in the kitchen. And then I hide under the table, and she's like, still not, like, doesn't pick up on any of this. I'm like doing this whole charade. And then it's
just
like,
Brittany being Brittany.
I know, that's probably what they thought. And then it's like,
oh my God.
And I'm like, like we're all like freaking out all of a sudden. She's like, what were you doing? I'm like, I explained the whole thing.
I told you what I was doing.
Roommate, you had the opportunity to stop her and you didn't.
I know. I was
Shame
like,
on you.
Oh, come on. This was me setting it up. It was kind of like the classmates. Like,
Yeah.
you're like, I am now microwaving. Stop me.
Like, you all should have known. No one warned me. They all saw the closed container when I took it out of the microwave and sat at my desk, and they just let me. They just let me do it.
It's like
So
the hard knocks
sad.
of life.
Yeah.
She'll never learn without knowing.
Yeah.
Against herself. Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
So-
welcome to Postpartum.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
We had some more things we didn't get to in the episode, right? Cody, did you have another one?
Yeah.
Oh, where's my things?
Oh, I think I stole them.
This is a little related, but you don't get any. You've been disqualified.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. Touching a pregnant lady's belly.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. I almost said ready, set, go. Oh, both. We've got an okay from me. We've got a both from Jessica, and we've got a from Brittany.
A
Yeah.
big
Yep. I'm doing both because it depends on the person. It totally depends on the person. Like, I feel like if you're not my friend and don't like hang out with me and have real life conversations with me that aren't involving pregnancy or my child, you can't just like come up and touch my belly.
Yeah.
Or like, I don't know.
I feel like you should always ask.
Yeah.
Yes.
But is it an ant for you even if they ask? Like, don't ask to touch my
Yeah, that's
belly.
really good. I feel like it's not as much of a hard no as I'm making it sound because like I had family members who I love ask me, and I have family members who I don't love ask me, and I said yes to both, but I was for sure uncomfortable with the latter, and I was mostly fine. I really was mostly fine. I like physical touch when it's in a controlled environment, and I think I chalk a lot of things up to like that I was weird about during my pregnancy to like hormones and whatever. Maybe it was really just me, but I just try to give myself like that kind of excuse or permission or whatever. And so like if I was uncomfortable with it, I was trying to be like, well, I don't know if I would have been weird otherwise. It's okay. So like my mother-in-law asked, and I really was fine. At first I thought I would be weirded out or like, no, don't touch me. But I give her hugs all the time, and I'm comfortable with that. And so I think it has to be very specific people. Yeah.
And for me, like, if someone just wanted to touch my belly, like, and early in the pregnancy too, like before I felt him kicking, that was weirder for me.
Oh, yeah.
Because I have,
Yeah.
my belly wasn't tight, like a traditional pregnant belly looks tight and round. It wasn't that way until much later in my pregnancy. So I'm like, okay, but you're just like feeling my fat. And yes, there's the fetus underneath the fat, but you can't feel him.
Yeah, if I can't feel it, you definitely can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like when he was kicking, I was a lot more open to wanting people to feel him kick because I could feel him kick and I wanted to share that with them.
Yeah.
But it was very surprising to me how many people were not interested in touching my belly or feeling him kick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like there were people family members that I'd be like, do you want to feel? And they're like,
Nah.
if you want me to
Why?
feel. And I'm like, no, I want you to want to feel.
Right?
Like,
even TJ,
this
like,
isn't about me.
I love him and he loves our son. And when I was pregnant, he was very happy to feel him kick. But after a couple of times, he was like kind of over it.
Been there, done that.
Yeah. Like, yeah. I felt, and then for me, it was just like every single day that he kicked me was just like magical.
Yes.
And if he didn't kick me for like an hour, I'm like, are you okay, baby? Are
Right.
you gonna
Yeah,
move?
yeah,
You know? And I
Like
think
this
that's normal.
reassurance
But
and this
yeah.
magic and this bonding and
Yeah. And it was the one thing that I missed the most right after having him was like, I can't feel him kick anymore. And TJ actually did comment on that too, that it was weird and sad that he could touch my belly now and, the baby wasn't in there and he wasn't kicking. So he did feel that sense of loss a little bit too. But
interesting.
yeah, that was the one thing that I still miss, even though he's out and he's beautiful and, like I just miss that.
I want to add one more thing, just with the whole asking thing. I had somebody ask me while their hand was like an inch away,
Ooh.
and I felt like that was too uncomfortable for me
not
to say
okay.
no at that point. And they were a family member.
What do you do? Like put your hands like guard, like no. Off limits.
Like
Like,
it
slap
was.
'em away.
I felt
Swat
like
it
it put
away.
me in a really
Did you wanna
uncomfortable
ask
position.
something?
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, they were like asking as they did it, and I was like, okay, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think it kind of goes back to like some things we were talking about in the episode. I'm like pointing behind me.
Back then.
Like
10
my
minutes
former
ago.
self. Kind of like what position does it put the mother in, and like
Yeah.
maybe she doesn't like you
Yeah.
or something. Maybe she also wouldn't want a hug from you. Maybe she wouldn't want you. Like a belly generally is a kind of personal place, right? Like people are guarded if they show their belly or if they cover
It's
their
right
belly.
between two very non-touchable places.
Yes.
I mean, too high, too low, you're off limits.
Exactly.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah.
And I would feel weird if someone, I just feel like it's, for me personally, it's so different when I'm carrying a child. I'm like, you need to be amazed at the fact that I'm doing this because it's freaking hard.
Yeah.
So feel what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Like, there's a head. Do you realize there's a head? Like, there's a full head.
Yeah, I would
inside
sit
of me.
there and I would like, not poke him or anything, but I would like feel him and be like, oh, I think that's his butt. I think that's his back. And I turn to TJ and be like, do you want to feel? And he'd be like, Like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Eden would try to be excited. He'd be like, yeah, I do.
Yeah,
and I
it's
could tell.
great. Yeah.
Just don't then.
Here, feel. Be
I
done.
wish I could have given him that for a little bit, just like transferred it to him to experience that himself, because that really is amazing.
All right. Well,
Oh yeah, Brittany, did you have another?
Yes. These are things that are okay or not okay, right? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay. Telling bad birth stories.
Oh.
I maybe have given away mine.
Telling birth stories in general, like we'll say that,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Like sharing their birth story
Yeah.
with you.
1. You ready? You look like you're contemplating still.
I am
1, 2, 3.
contemplating still. I am. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. I guess you could say their birth story with the intention for it to be like a hardship. Maybe is that kind of what you're saying? Like,
What do you mean?
like they're telling you their story to like share their pain.
Is this unsolicited? Is this
Yes,
without
unsolicited?
Okay.
Unsolicited.
I guess,
Okay,
hang on. I think I'm
that's
gonna.
the thing I needed to
I don't want to put words in Brittany's
So
mouth.
yeah, let me clarify it a little bit because I don't know their intention behind this, but if they're like, let me give it kind of an example, not a specific, but like, oh, this terrible thing happened to me or somebody I know with. For me, it was often like twins. Like, oh, I know somebody who lost their twin. That's what I mean. Like things
one of the
like
twins,
that.
or I was in labor for 48 hours.
Yeah,
or,
like yeah, something like that. So
right.
1, 2, 3. Oh, across the board, not okay. And there was somebody in our church who had twins, and I don't know what she was going to say, but she started saying something, and somebody else came up and said very firmly, "Don't tell her your stories." And I said, "Oh, I'm kind of intrigued." He said, "You don't want to know. They're horrific." And I was like thinking, why would she want to tell me a horrific story? And I don't know actually what she was going to, but he was going to nip whatever she was saying in the freaking bud. But I got that like many times, and I wonder, did you guys get that with singletons? I got that so often. Like, let me tell you about my aunt who lost her twin. Like, why would I ever want to hear that?
Yeah, I did. But on the flip side, I actually had a really good friend who has had 3 kids, and I know all 3 of her birth stories because we're really good friends, and I was there for her first. And so she didn't really have to tell me them because she had already told me them in the past. But when I was pregnant and we were talking about it, she actually said, "Do you want to hear my experiences?" And I was like, no.
Yeah.
Like, just being honest.
Again, going in with a question.
I don't need to know, because like if it was really bad, I don't want to be scared. If it was really great and easy, I don't want to have my hopes in a place where they're not going to be. Like, if it's informational, I would totally accept that, because learning, what your body is doing and what labor feels like or whatever for that person may be a good learning experience. But just saying like, oh my gosh, they gave me Pitocin and I just about died and I was in labor for like 40 hours and whatever, like, I don't, what if that's not the same for me, and then it puts this like expectation on you and whatever. But yeah, I definitely had that experience. People sharing. I think they do it because they want to commiserate. I think it's part, like what I was saying.
They want to bond.
Yeah,
probably.
It's like being part of the club, right? So. Like we've given birth and it's horrible. Like, let's just all bond on how horrible it was.
Yeah, like they want to share with you, like, hey, I've been through it. This is where.
Yeah.
But it's not appropriate. Like, I feel like a really appropriate place to do that is on your social medias. If you want to tell your story, if you want to put your story out there, do it on social media. Yeah. Because it's a good place. It's not forcing anyone to read. Like, if I don't want to read your story, I can scroll past it. Or I can click out of your profile. But sitting down one-on-one with someone and forcing them to listen to a story that may be really hard for them to hear and may not have positive results is not an effective way to go about it.
And you have no idea where they are mentally. I mean, like, maybe this is really not the time where they need to be thinking about their labor, because there's too much going on. Like, what if you had some potential health issues with your twins that your doctors were like, well, one of them may not survive or whatever, and then someone's like, oh yeah, I totally lost one of my twins, then you just never know.
Yeah, exactly. And I was just going to mention on the social media thing, maybe this is common sense, but probably next level, or just slightly under telling them one-on-one being inappropriate, is like commenting on somebody's comment. Like, if they're like, I'm struggling with this, and they're like, well, let me tell you about when my kid died, or something like that. Like, I said that a little bit too lightly, but do you know what I mean? I
Yes.
feel like if that's like something they're going to see, then I feel almost like it's an inadvertent attack, and which was probably not intended. But I was on a page, and I assume that there's groups for like this for other types of births, but there's, you know, a lot of twin groups, and I had to leave like 3 of them because it was not where the commentary was leading me to be in a not healthy mind space.
Which maybe now that your twins are healthy and everything, you know, is kind of resolved, maybe being a part of those groups and helping provide positivity for those people would be a good thing. But yeah, at that point, like, I'm sure it would have been difficult to just, because you don't know, everything is so up in the air.
When I was struggling, I was looking for answers, and I just felt really alone, like I was the only person who was going through something like what I was going through. And so I posted on Facebook, and I made it very clear, hey, I'm looking for, like, if you've gone through this, please reach out, but don't tell me specific details of what you went through, because I don't think it'll be good for me right now. So I made that very clear. And maybe that's something like, if you're going through something hard, but you don't want, like, if you are scared, if you got bad news, right? And if you're like, hey, I want support, but I don't want to hear your bad stories right now, like, that's not what I need. Clarify that. You can
good communication.
You can
on
communicate.
Your side.
Yep.
Did you give one this time?
Nope. Okay. I do have one though, and this one may get different results from us. Mine is, do you have a name picked out, and what is it? Like, if we say yes, then they ask, what is it?
Okay.
1, 2, 3. All right. Cody's okay. I'm not okay. Brittany is not okay and okay. And I probably can hold up both. I think I can probably. The only reason, well, 2 things. One reason why I absolutely hate this question is because it was asked so many times. So many times. I feel like there's these generic questions that people ask when you're very first pregnant. People ask you how you're feeling, if you have morning sickness. Like, that's the thing, right? Do you have morning sickness? Then when you get a little further along, they ask you, what's the gender of your baby? And then once you know the gender, they're like, do you have a name? And then for the last half of my pregnancy, I swear every single person I know asked me if we had a name picked out. And I'm sure the 2 of you did as well. I don't remember.
And you don't like that. You're saying you don't like those generic questions.
I don't, but for this one specifically, it's the same thing as I was saying about the gender. I think, like, I just didn't want to give him a name. Well, for personally, we did have a name. And we have had the name that we named him, Jamie, for a very long time, like before we got pregnant. But I didn't want to just decide on that before he was born. I felt very strongly that I wanted to have some options, and I wanted to meet him, and I wanted to take that time to decide. And we took probably, like, I don't know, 4 hours or something after he was born to really look at him and spend time with him and talk about it and decide on his name. And I think that's totally fine. And I think people asking me, you know, if we have a name was totally fine. But it was that follow-up question that bugged me because they would say, do you have a name picked out? And I would say, you know, yeah, we have some options. And then they'd be like, what are they? And that to me was just like, if I'm not going to say, yeah, we do, it's blah, 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 then that's where it ends. Because then I was in this awkward situation where I'm like, well, I don't want to tell you. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Like, felt like personal.
Yeah.
And
and I would always just say, like, well, we're waiting till he's born. And some people had problems with that too. Like, that was weird.
See, yeah, that's where I would be like, I've made it clear I'm not letting you know.
Yeah.
And if you have a problem, then that's where I would be like, no.
Yeah. So it was just like, I think it was just intention. Like, why do you want to know? Is it just because it's the thing that you're asking, that you need to ask at this point in my pregnancy? Is that like the question, right? Or are you really curious? Because I think some people really did want to know. Some people wanted to put their 2 cents in. Some people want to judge. And that's a big thing. And I wasn't too worried about people, like, what they would have said about the name. But we did have a bit of a traumatic experience the previous year when we got Crouton, our dog. And
I was just thinking about that.
My whole family was there for Christmas, and I gave TJ a puppy for Christmas, and we spent the night, he and I, just looking at names, discussing them as his dog, so I let him choose the name, right? But we talked about it, and we decided on Crouton, and we loved it. And his whole family hated it. They refused to call her that. I think he said, like, well, some nicknames, like, you can call her a nickname or whatever. And I'm like, you really can't do that with dogs. By the way, if you know dogs, they respond to sounds, like, and if you call them something like their name, you can't call them like another thing for their name as well, unless they're a really smart dog, because they won't understand those sounds. So, like, commands are like short, and you have a lot of the opposite of vowels. I'm totally blanking. Consonants. Yes, they respond well to consonants. So, but in order to like appease his family, he said, "Oh, well, you can call her." I think he said Tawny. Because that was like the color of her fur that's what tawny is, like that color or whatever. And his family was like, oh, I like that so much better. And then we saw them again like 6 months later, and they're like, oh, how's Tawny? And I'm like, who? Because her name is Crouton. But yeah, so that happened. And then I'm like, oh, great. Now we have to name this baby and deal with this judgment. And my mother-in-law, love her to death, but she still, I think the last time, she was here when he was born, and they were here for several weeks, and she was like, I still can't call him Jamie, but I'm getting there. Like, I'm getting close to it. And I'm like, well, you know, if you get there eventually, that's great. 'Cause that's his name. It's legally binding.
Yeah. I was actually thinking about that. I was going to ask, but I was like, so I'm glad you brought the whole crouton situation up, because I didn't want to, it's like, are the people that you're, anyway, yes. Yeah. So.
I love the generic questions. I'm just giving an opposite, and I know I'm the unpopular opinion on this.
Maybe you are. I mean, in this room, maybe, but maybe with more people.
I think in general, people are over it, and I love it. I don't care what your intentions are, and maybe it's just because I'm like a diva and I like the platform. But when people would ask me, I'd be like, okay. Yeah, like, let me tell you how my whatever XYZ, I just liked the interaction and the connection to people, and that they were curious about this life. I'm very much a believer that the baby inside of me is still a baby, and I don't want that to be denied. Yeah. And so any question was an acknowledgement of that existence, whether it was like, and people do the same thing with the babies now. They're like, is he sleeping? I'm like, no, he's not. Do most babies sleep? No. But that's fine. I appreciate you asking the question, and I just tell them, or I'll be like, no, or I don't know, sometimes. Yeah. And like, I don't know. I just.
How many people did you get asking you those questions? Like,
if I was quite a bit. The questions that you were talking about, yeah, they definitely asked the generic questions. Yeah. A lot.
How do you? I just don't like. How do you love saying, "Yeah, we're having a boy"? Yeah, we have some names, but nothing solid. Like, how do you get through saying that 1,000 times and just loving it every time? I want to learn. I just want to learn these ways.
I just thought of it as
create a course content solid.
And in my bio, I say this: it takes a village. And I just saw it as there's this village of people that are going to love my son, and the more I can show them, you know, in an appropriate manner, but if I can talk about him and I can show love about him, then they can show love about him, and that's just a good way. I felt like I was building him a support system. And of course with strangers, I would give them a quick answer and then it'd be over with. And they felt better, and I felt good that they were curious about this life I was growing. And then with people I loved, I always thought, oh my gosh, thank goodness he has all this love. And whether it was generic or not, I felt like it could spark a good conversation if I just talked. And then if they were like, oh, this is into, like, I was just then they won't ask it next time. You know, they'll learn, because I'm gonna get into it with you. If you ask me a question, we're gonna talk about it.
Can of worms.
Yeah. I think it's just, I don't know where it came from, because I don't know many people that are like this. In fact, I don't know anyone who's like me in
it's a beautiful perspective.
Well, thanks.
Well, and your mom is awesome. I mean, like, I don't know much about your upbringing, but she's awesome. So maybe that contributed to your feeling of safety. Brittany and I are over here jaded.
I know. I'm like, they all have ill intentions.
Sorry, love you, Mom.
I have a really good relationship with my mom, and that's helpful. And I married into a family that is very open about things and very loving and affectionate in every way. And so I think I saw that and I wanted that. I wanted that openness. I wanted that, I wanted that village. And so I thought, how can I build this for my baby?
It's a beautiful perspective. The more I spend time with you, I hope the more I can adopt that.
Oh, well, I think you guys are awesome too, and I want to adopt things of you.
Just don't adopt these cynical.
All be better together. We'll all be better together.
We can just shave off the less than ideal.
No, and it's not less than ideal. It's just difference. You know, I respect what you guys are going through too. Like, I respect your opinions. I respect your experiences, and I also respect mine.
And I like that you're not feeling like you have to change or diminish yours just because somebody else is,
Yeah.
Well, thank you for tuning in to today's postpartum. We appreciate your support and we look forward to seeing you next week.